Hello guys, and welcome to a new Broken Arrow video today by me, Vulcan. This time around I wanted to take a deep dive into the American units that are available in the Broken Arrow public demo that came out as part of Steam Next Fest. What I'm going to be doing is going through each of the categories available here on the left hand side and having a look at all of the units and any customization they might have. I haven't gone through all of the units yet myself, so this will be a little bit of discovery for me as well. For those of you unfamiliar, on the right hand side we have the statistics window. It gives the name of the unit, the price of the unit, the kinetic and heat protection for the front armor, side armor, rear armor and top armor. Then we have the stats for the health of the unit, the speed of the unit, the optics of the unit, so how well it can see, the stealth of the unit and the weight of the unit, and then any armament is underneath with any other modifiers on the right hand side here. So let's start off with the Armoured Knight in the Recon tab. Now this is an armoured vehicle with a 50 cal mounted on it, and also this optics box, which does give it 1200 optics, which seems like on the high end in Broken Arrow, so that's very, very good for its price by the looks of it, and do also get some decent protection, not too bad. Then we have the Flyer GMV. This thing is much more lightly armoured. Seems more of a transport for the recon options with its 6 seats and only 500 optics. By default, it comes with an M2 HMG, so a 50 cal. It can be upgraded with the GAU 19 minigun and also the Mark 47 grenade launcher, as well as the M2 30 LF chain gun, which looks like a 30mm chain gun. That could probably spit out some serious firepower. It has 65mm of heat penetration. The minigun actually gets 24 to 48mm of kinetic penetration, but this thing has much longer range and is effective against ground, infantry, vehicles and helicopters. I think the minigun is as well. Seems like even their grenade launcher can be fired at helicopters. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's move on to the Force Recons, the first of the infantry squads we're going to be seeing. So there's a few extra stats here. We have the armor of the infantry, and we also have the squad size. Also, was there any modifiers here to point out? The Armored Knight does have laser designation, so we'll just point that out. For the Force Recon, you do have the sprint ability, and you also have the smoke there. For their weapons, they've got the M27, which gets the time between bursts 2.5 to 3.25. This also has 2 grenade launchers attached to 2 of those. We get 2 AT4s in the squad. You see on the back of those 2 men. And these get 2 shots each. So you get 4 shots total. And then we have the M38 sniper rifle, which has a range of 750 meters. It also has a penetration of 6 to 12mm, so it can hit vehicles. Same with the M27 actually. Yeah, it seems like light arms fire can get through units like this Flyer, for example, that would have limited armor capability. Let's move on to the Humvee GMV. So old school trailer Humvee. Comes with an M240 mounted on top, very fast, only 500 optics again, 6 seats. Its weapons can be the M240, the M2 Browning, the grenade launcher and the M134 minigun. Very cool. Then we have the Humvee LRA S3, which looks to be a more of a high optics version of the Humvee. It can have armor and weapon upgrades. It laser designates, and by default it has an M240. Let's have a look at the armor. So we can have the frag armor kit, which bolsters the armor by quite a bit, honestly, but not to a very high amount. Like, it's obviously way more than the baseline armor, so it will protect it more against light arms fire, but otherwise anything else is going to go straight through it. Its weapon can be upgraded to an M2 Browning or even a grenade launcher as well. Then we have the Humvee RWS. This looks like a support Humvee. Comes with a 50 cal and smoke, so it can fire these smoke canisters to support a push. So fast as always, has 600 optics. Let's have a look at the other weapons it can get. So we can have a 50 cal or a grenade launcher, and then its armor can be upgraded to the frag armor kit as well. Cool. This actually doesn't have any seating capability by the looks of things compared to this Humvee, for example. So it can't be used as a transport, it's just there to help out with supporting enemy, or not enemy infantry, friendly infantry. Then we have the IFAV M2, little Jeep with 130 speed. This is even faster than the Humvee. It does have 600 optics, and then an M2 Browning, which can be upgraded to the grenade launcher, the Mark 19, or even a tow anti-tank missile. Interesting. And this has 2,700 meter range with a penetration of 750 millimeters. That is pretty decent, honestly. It's going to do some serious damage. So a nice fast potential anti-tank missile platform. Then we have the JLTV RVM2, which seems like a very chonky Jeep, that's for sure. Its standard armor is the same as the upgraded Humvee, got 110 speed and 750 optics. So its optics are a bit better, but it looks like that's because its weapon up here is supported by better optics. It can use the M2 Browning, the Mark 19 grenade launcher. It can also use the M230 LF30mm. Was this the chain gun? It looks like it. That looks beastly. Or even the M230 LF with a javelin system. So the javelin has a range of 2,400 meters, but I assume this is the top attack javelin. So 600 millimeters of penetration is actually quite substantial. On a fast vehicle like this, this is going to be really good. Next we have the LAV-25A1. The A1 has the Bushmaster M242, which is a 25mm autocannon. It's got 100 speed. Its armor's not too bad. It's got 6 seats and it is amphibious. It also has smoke capability. It also gets 2 M240s, so it gets 1 in the turret and 1 on the top there. Can upgrade to the A2 armor, which makes it a bit more beefy. It still has that amphibious capability. Sometimes adding armor removes the amphibious capability, but not in this case. Next up we have the LSV. Now this thing just reminds me of Battlefield. Battlefield 2 more specifically. A very crazy Recon car this, with a 50 cal and an M240 mounted on it. So the M240 at the front there, the 50 cal on the top, 130 speed, 750 optics, which is actually pretty good considering it doesn't look like there's any actual optics system on it. I guess the guy's just got his binoculars out in this case. Let's move on to the M1117 Guardian. So this is the same vehicle as the Armored Knight, but it has the weapon systems on it. So in this case, if I can get it up, there we go. We've got the 50 cal to start off with. It only has 500 optics. It does have 3 seats, so that's interesting. Can be used as a very small transport. Decent protection, but let's have a look at the weapons available. So it can use an M2 Browning, it can use the grenade launcher, and it can use a different turret that provides it with both a grenade launcher and an M2 Browning. That's kind of cool. And that could actually really pack a punch massively against infantry. I like having both systems. That's very nice indeed. And it maintains its optics there. Okay. Right, moving on, we have the M3A3 Bradley. The Bradley, by default, does have the Bushmaster cannon, but that doesn't seem to be shown on the card here. And then it has the Hellfire, unless this is like a fake gun, maybe? But I'm pretty sure that this is a working gun, or should be. It seems like this is very much work in progress because it doesn't show the armor values either. And it's showing Hellfires, which I don't think this fires. Maybe it does. You guys will let me know in the comments, I'm sure. Armor packages. We got the base armor, and then we got the Busk reactive armor, which does improve the armor quite substantially. Oh, there we go. Now it's loaded. That's weird. But yeah, we got the Bushmaster, the 25mm Bushmaster, and then we got the TOW 2. There we go. Yeah, the 2,700 meter TOW 2, and then the M240. So by default, we have 105mm of protection on the frontal armor, 69 on the side armor, A, and 69 on the rear, double A. And that can be upgraded to 405mm of heat protection and 370 on the side. That's some substantial heat protection for the Bradley M3. Right, moving on, we have the M7 Bradley Fist. This is definitely much more recon focused than the M3A3 Bradley. This thing has 950 optics, which is still not bad, but it's obviously not as good as the 1200 that the M7 Bradley Fist gets. So 1200, I guess the problem with the M7 Bradley Fist is it doesn't have the ATGMs, it just has the autocannon. So you're kind of sacrificing that. But this comes with smoke and the laser guidance. I haven't really been pointing this out, but you can always see when there is smoke there on the right hand side. Right, moving on, we have the first of the US drones, starting with the MQ-8 Fire Scout. This thing is decently fast. It's got 950 optics, and its default payload comes with 2 of the DAGR missiles, which are, looks like it says ground infantry vehicles and helicopters. So it's like ATGMs that can also fire at helicopters. Like a lead pursuit missile, laser guided. Interesting. Then we have so initially we've got the DAGR. Then we've got the DAGR and Hellfires. The Hellfires are also laser guided here, but they have a range of 2,850 meters, substantially more. They are much more powerful. So these look like laser guided rockets. It says rocket pod loadout. Okay, so it looks like they're guided rockets. And then they've got guided missiles as well, which are the 2,850 meters there. I mean, I assume they have to be laser guided because it's a drone. It's not manned. And then we've got the anti-tank loadout, which is purely Hellfires. So you get Hellfires on both sides. Interesting. Next we have the MQ-9 Reaper, the Reaper drone. Very well known. This thing is not as fast by the looks of things, but comes standard with 2x2 Hellfires. It can change its loadout, so let's have a quick look. Looks like it can't change its inner pylons, middle pylons. Can be added extra Hellfires. Okay, so you can have 8 Hellfires if you want for an extra 50 points there. Cool. Alright, next up we have the Pararescue, which have Scar-Ls as their rifles, 4 of those. They get the Mark 49 as their machine gun, and the Mark 12 as a sniper there. Mark 49 having the same range as a Scar-L. That's handy. 6-man squad. Got the 7 armor, they got the sprint ability, and also the smoke there. Now we have the Rangers RRC. These also have the Scar L. Seems like the Scar L has a better capability than the M27 in terms of time between bursts. So these squads are going to be a little bit better. So yeah, 4 Scar Ls. They have the RAWS launcher, which seems like an anti-tank with 400 meters or millimeters of penetration. You get 6 shots in that. And then they have the Mark 12. So 6-man squad. And they got 750 optics as well. Let's have a look at the Pararescue. The Pararescue actually have 950 optics. But yeah, these also have the sprint and smoke ability. And then we have the RSOV, another Jeep. This comes default with 600 optics and decent speed. Can carry 6 men with the M2 Browning. It can be dropped, para-dropped. So that's cool. Is that the first Recon vehicle in the entire tab that can be airdropped? It looks like. So that's what it would be used for, if anything. It can also be equipped with the Mark 47 grenade launcher. Then there's the Scout Snipers. These come with the M38 and the M40. The M40 has 1,200 meter range. The M38 750. So used to engage targets quite far away. They do have sprint, they do have smoke, 750 optics. I'm surprised these don't have as good optics as the Pararescue actually, considering they're a sniper squad that can fire 1,200 meters. The Striker RV, good old Striker, very fast armored vehicle with 1,200 optics here due to the optics platform on top. And it's got 6 seats as well. Has laser guidance, has smoke, comes default with an M240 machine gun. It can be upgraded with the SRAT 2 reactive armor, which doesn't appear to be modeled into the game yet unless it's internal. Could be internal, but either way, increases the stats quite a bit. You can see the kinetic armor increases substantially, as well as the heat armor. In terms of weapons, we can have the M240, we can have the Browning 50 cal, and you can also have the Mark 19 grenade launcher. And that is the Recon tab. Let's move on to the Infantry tab, starting with the Dragon team. So we have the 4 M27s as rifles, and then we have the M47 Dragon 3. I know I had a bunch of comments saying, oh, why aren't they using javelins? But I believe the Dragon 3 was a prototype that is added into this game as if it was to enter service during the war that Broken Arrow is trying to represent. So it's got 1,500 meter range with 750 millimeters of heat penetration. 4-man squad. They don't have the ability to sprint or anything. 600 optics by default. Then we have the Javelin team. So Javelin's going to be what I think the US use in real life now. But these guys actually get 2 Javelins on a team, which is interesting. Because they can fire probably both at the same time. And each Javelin gets 4 missiles. So you got basically, I would assume they're going to hit the same target. If they can hit separate targets, that's going to be really strong. Obviously we haven't had a chance to try them. But top-down attack with 600 millimeters of penetration. Javelin's an incredible weapon system. So yeah, be fun to try those out eventually. We have the LAAD Stinger, the Lad Stinger, with the M4A1 as their rifles. And you can see here the time between bursts on these rifles, or these M4A1s, is higher than like the M27, for example, on this Dragon team. And then on the Recon stuff, you saw the rifles, they have like even less than that with the more elite squads. Anyway, yeah, this Javelin, 2,400 meter range. The Stinger, you get 2 Stingers in a squad. This is something, again, I really like about this game is that you get 2 Stingers in one like man-pad squad. So you get 2 Stingers and they have 4 shots each and a range. I'm not sure what the effective range of these is supposed to be, but I think most man-pads in the game at the moment have 1,500 meter range. So it's probably similar, or will be similar. And the squad is 4 men, obviously, and it's got 600 optics there. Then we have the light riflemen. Light riflemen come with M4A1s, 2 of which have the M203 grenade launcher, and then they have the M249 E3 machine gun, 2 of those, and 3 AT4s with 2 shots each. So these could take out vehicles very quickly if all of 3 of those are firing at the same time. 9 men in the squad. They can sprint, they do have smoke. Then we have the Marine Raiders. These Marine Raiders have the Mark 18 CQBR. You can see the time between bursts is much lower than some of the other infantry. So they get the Mark 18s and they get 4 shotguns, the M1014. That's cool. I'm curious how that does, like if it does like more damage. It says 2 damage there. Slug rounds apparently. And they also get 2 grenade launchers. The M32 grenade launcher. Nice. So a 14-man squad, very chonky, with sprint and smoke ability. Wow, they seem very, very good indeed. Then we have the standard Marines. These have 12 M27s, 3 of which have M320 grenade launchers, and they have the MAAWS launcher, which has 6 rockets, carried by this fella back here, and the M38 marksman rifle as well. So 13-man squad with sprint and smoke. Not bad. Then we have the mech rifles. These are probably going to be turning up in like your Bradleys and stuff. They have the M4A1, 4 of those, 2 of which have M203 grenade launchers. And they have 1 AT4, which has 2 shots, and then 2 M249 E3s. So more of like a longer range support infantry. Doesn't want to get too close to armor, or at least any armor that it does come across, it's going to want to have its Bradley deal with. Let's have a look at the small squad. So this is another example of a support squad with 2 of the weapons. So in this case we get 2 smalls, but the main gun is 4 M27s, and then the 2 smalls there that have the effective range of 600 meters apparently. I always thought it was a bit more than that, but yeah, either way. I'm going to pack a punch with the 600 millimeters of heat penetration. 4 men in the squad, get sprint, get smoke, get the optics there, 500 optics. Let's move on to the weapons squad. So this seems like a full squad, 9-man squad, that also has access to javelins. So 7 M4A1s, 2 javelins with that 2,400 meter, 600 millimeters penetration, and 2 M240s, which have 750 meter range. Very cool. Right, let's move on to the vehicle tab. This is also the tank tab. So we have, first of all, the AAVP 7A1, the classic Amtrak, with the Browning 50 cal and grenade launcher on it. This has 500 optics. It can carry 21 men and it is amphibious, of course. It's got some reasonable armor. And it does have the armor abilities here, so we can upgrade it to the EAAK armor, which substantially improves the armor all round. Very nice. Then we have the ACV, another armored vehicle with decent speed. 13 men can get in this with the amphibious trait. A good amphibious vehicle. It can have a 50 cal on top, it can have a grenade launcher on top, the Mark 19. It can also have the Bushmaster 2. Interesting. So this is a 30mm. With some decent penetration by the looks of it, 65 to 130 mils of kinetic penetration at 1,500 meters range. Some decent damage against infantry, of course, as well. M240s mounted on the top. So that looks like a beast, honestly. Let's move on to the Humvee, the classic Humvee. This is just a transport in this tab. It carries 4 men, so probably useful for moving around your weapon teams, like the Stinger squads, the smaller squads, the Dragon squads, the Javelin squads, that kind of thing. So that's what it's there for. It can be upgraded with the B-kit armor, which will protect it more from light arms fire. Then we have the Humvee Patrol, which is basically the same, but you don't have the seating. Instead, you have the weapons. So you have the baseline armor, which gives you, your limited protection. Then you've got the up armored chassis, and that gives it protection from light arms fire, and also seems to protect the gunner quite a bit more, that's for sure. And the weapon can change from a 50 cal to a 40mm grenade launcher. There you go. Then we have the Humvee towed to A. So the same Humvee. I'm going to assume that the up armor is the same. Yep. So it goes to that 16 front armor, which is going to protect it from that light arms fire. And it can have the tow to A and the tow to B. So the tow to A is 2,700 meters with 750 millimeters of heat penetration. And then the tow to B has 2,700 meters of penetration. 2,700 meters range, and I assume that's supposed to be maybe 800 millimeters of heat penetration. Might be a typo, because I can't imagine it's 80. That doesn't seem right. The damage is slightly lower, though. Okay, interesting. Won't read into that too much, because obviously things are still very much work in progress. We have the JLTV here. The normal transport variant of this truck with, again, 4 seats. Going to be good for moving around your support weapon units. Then we have the JLTV FSV. These by default have the decent light arms protection, and you can change the M2 Browning to a 50 cal. Oh, sorry, the M2 Browning to a grenade launcher if you would like. Then we have the LAV-AT, so classic LAV armored hull, which is super speedy with 950 optics, not bad at all. And this carries the tow to A 16 missiles. It is amphibious as well. Its armor package can be upgraded, so you get some better front and side armor, but actually worse rear armor. Interesting. And then the weapon system, we have the LAV-AT and the LAV-AT modernized. So it's the same weapon. I'm going to assume that this is supposed to increase optics, maybe? It doesn't seem like it's making much of a difference on the side there, like in the statistics. Interesting. Right, let's have a look at the next one, the M1283 AMPV. Well, this is a big boy, isn't it? So it comes with an M2 Browning. Very, very highly armored troop transport. 500 optics. Default 50 cal. It can have reactive armor, which is going to help it massively with heat protection. And then its weapon can be changed from an M2 Browning to a Mark 19 grenade launcher. You can also use the R800 remote weapon station, which utilizes a Bushmaster 30mm on top with the M240. Very nice. And then there's also the R800 plus Javelin. So you get that anti-tank capability there. Nice. Okay, let's move on to the tanks. We have the M1A1 FEP to start us off. You can see by default the heat protection here is very high, 1290 millimeters of heat protection in the frontal armor. That's massive. On the side and rear armors not so much, but there's some serious frontal armor that you're going to want to keep faced. 120mm gun with the APF SDS with a penetration of 470 to 940 millimeters kinetic. It also has, of course, the HE shells. 2 M240s. You got one on the roof. You got one on the side of the gun there. And you've also got the Browning on top as well. So lots of machine guns that it can put down range. 750 optics, not too bad. Gets 2 sets of smoke. Then we have the M1A1HC. This has slightly different model, different gun that is slightly worse. So you see the aim time here is increased on the M1A1HC. But the M1A1HC I assume is the Marine variant, and then the M1A1 FEP is like the Army variant, maybe? Apologies if I get that wrong, I'm sure a lot of you know otherwise, but yeah, interesting. This gets the M830A1 shell, which has 400mm of heat, as well as the 440 to 880mm kinetic round. Okay, interesting. Rather than just having like a more generic HE round, well, this also has 400mm of heat penetration. Okay. Let's move on to the M2... Oh, sorry, did I miss the armor packages here? Yeah, I did. Okay, so these can bring in the ARAT armor package, which also increases the heat protection on the side armor by about 200mm. That's not too bad. I guess the armor package on the M1A1HC is the same. It is indeed. Okay, let's move on to the M2A2 Bradley. I just gotta like click around until it lets me see it. Okay. So here we have the M2A2 Bradley with the Bushmaster cannon, the classic 25mm, with the M240 and then the TOW 2. Gets 950 optics, which is really not too bad, and reasonable armor protection. It can also increase that armor protection against heat quite substantially with the Busk reactive armor. Then we have the M2A3 Bradley, which seems to have a bunch of different armor packages here. The base armor is the 105 mils of frontal armor on the heat. You can get base armor plus the Busk, plus Iron Fist. I'm not quite sure what that's changing. Then we have the Busk reactive armor, and then there's Busk plus Iron Fist. So I think the base armor maybe doesn't have the active protection, and then when you add the Iron Fist it does, because I think the Iron Fist is active protection on the turret as well. You can see the turret changes there. I'm not familiar with the different types of Bradleys, but those are all the different variants for you. Then we have the M2A3 Bradley ESV. This has the big old shovel, or plow, I guess you'd call it, on the front. So that would be for clearing mines, I suppose. And has the same stats otherwise, more or less, as the M2A3, but yeah, I suppose that's like something support vehicle. It has all of the same variations. So base armor, Busk reactive armor, base armor plus Iron Fist, Busk armor plus Iron Fist. Cool. Then we have the M55 1A1 Sheridan. Good old Sheridan. This has the M81E1 gun with a 152mm heat round, which actually has 600mm of heat penetration. It has the HE rounds, and then it also has the MGM51C. It's a gem that it can fire at 2,700 meters. It does have an M240, and it also has the Browning 50 cal there on top. This can be airdropped, and it does have 750 optics, which isn't too bad. And then reasonable protection, but is definitely going to get sliced to pieces by T-72s and stuff. Then we have the M60. Look at this, just covered in like reactive armor. It has actually very good frontal armor, 320 and then 520 for heat. I'm not sure if this is like supposed to be millimeters, but either way, reasonably protected M60. It kind of looks very silly. 105mm gun with 320 to 640 millimeters of kinetic penetration, and it also has HESH rounds with 200 millimeters of heat penetration. It's got an M240, of course, beside the gun, and then it's got the M2 Browning boy on top. And moving on, we have the Strikers. So we've got the Striker HDGM. These are nice and quick. They have decent optics. Very lightly armored, really. They can be upgraded with better heat armor and kinetic armor, actually, that increases. But in this case, we get the TOW2A as our weapon system. There's also the ESV, which comes with the plow. And that has a 50 cal on it by default. Only 600 optics, but can carry 9 men. Its remote weapon station can be changed from a 50 cal to a grenade launcher, the Mark 19 grenade launcher, or 50 cal with a javelin, or a grenade launcher with a javelin. That's actually really nice that you can put the javelin on these, because that speed, plus the fact that it's a transport, is a nice combination. And there's the ICV, which again, the transport variant without the plow on it. It can use the SPAT-2 reactive armor, and its weapon station include the 50 cal, the grenade launcher, the 50 cal with the javelin, the grenade launcher with the javelin, and then there's the Dragoon system, which is the Bushmaster 30mm. Very nice. So that again gets the 65 to 130 millimeters of kinetic penetration at 1,500 meter range. Nice. And then finally, there's the Striker MGS, which is the big gun on top, the 105, with the 320 to 640 millimeters of kinetic penetration, and then the HESH rounds has 200 millimeters of heat penetration, and it also has the M2 Browning there as well on the side. Very cool. This has 750 optics, so slightly better than these two variants, but worse than the HGM variant. And there you go, that's all of the vehicles. Let's move on to the support tab. In the support tab, first of all, we have the Avenger, the ANTWQ-1. Its armor is very light, won't really even survive against light arms fire. It is equipped with Stingers. It has 12 Stinger missiles that it can load, I guess, 4 at a time. And its effective range is probably 1,500 meters again. So, nice, speedy anti-air unit with the 50 cal there on the side. Then there's the Centurion C-Ram. So, a truck with the M61 CIWS on the side, or the C-Wiz, as people like me to call it. This has a 20mm minigun basically in it. I don't know what is it, like a chain gun or a minigun? I assume it's more like a minigun. Very, very effective anti-air system. It is radar, as you can see by the trait here on the right hand side. And then we have the Hawkeye MWS. This is what looks like a Humvee teched out with a 105mm mortar on the back. So 4,200 meter range with 11 damage. Not bad. 500 optics, doesn't really matter. And the speedy boy. So just some speedy movable mortars. Then we have the LAVAD back to anti-air, which comes with the 25mm GAU-12. And also these stingers there. The 16 stingers. It can load 8 at a time with the 1,500 meter range. This is also amphibious. We get to see this in the public demo mission, which is nice. There's also the LAVM. This is also available in the public demo mission. Is there an armor package on these? Am I missing them? I am missing these armor packages, aren't I? There's actually a weapon package. Oh, we can put double missile pod on the Avenger. And we still get to keep the Browning 50 cal. Up armored chassis. Seems to add smoke launchers on the front. That's interesting. So it makes it more immune to light arms fire. The Centurion C-Ram can be upgraded with the B-Kit armor. Again, just to make it more resistant to light arms fire. The Hawkeye MWS also has that same kit. So doesn't look like you guys missed much. And then the LAVM here has the A2 armor package, which does substantially increase the armor on this thing and doesn't take away that amphibious capability, as I mentioned before. So yeah, the LAVM just going to be the mortar variant of that with an 81mm mortar, which has 3,000 meter range. Then we have the LMTV, which has the B-Kit armor package. That actually goes up a bit more than some of the other armor packages. So the front of it is way more resilient to light arms fire. This thing can carry 16 men. It has a reasonable speed and can also carry some supply. It can have an M240 on it. It can also use a 50 cal or a grenade launcher. Then we have the LSVR. This is your big old logistics truck. It can be upgraded with better armor here. Again, that's just to make it better against light arm fire. So it can have an M240 by default. It can be empty. It can have the M2 Browning and of course the grenade launcher. It can also carry 20,000 supply, which is a lot. And you get to see that in the public demo mission. The M109A7 Paladin is next. We've got our big arty boys coming into play. This has the Excalibur rounds, which I assume are laser guided, they're laser guided artillery shells with a range of 5,250 meter range. There's also the HE rounds, and they can also fire smoke rounds. Very cool. We do have the 50 cal on it. Its weapon package can change to the M1299 Iron Thunder. Oh boy, that's a long barrel. Someone got excited. 5,700 meter range on that bad boy. Is the damage much more? It seems like the damage on the HE of this is 16. On the Iron Thunder, it's 15, but it has a much higher range. It can also fire smoke. Crikey. That's a very long barrel. Alright, moving on. We have the M1287 MCV. This has a mortar in it. The 120mm Soltam K6 mortar. With the 120mm heat penetration on that, apparently. With an effective range of 3,600 meter range, can fire smoke. Self-defense package. You can have it with nothing. You can have it with an M240 on top, an M2 Browning, or a grenade launcher. And you can also give it reactive armor, which makes it very well defended, actually. against heat rounds, which I suspect would be quite useful against artillery that lands next to it, but not necessarily on top of it. And like if it gets hit directly, yeah, it's going to hurt. But if it gets hit like in the front or side, like an artillery shell lands near it, if it's getting counter batteried, that extra heat protection could probably be quite useful. Right, next up we have the classic HIMARS. I've heard a lot about these in the news, eh? The HIMARS is a multiple rocket launcher with that ability to fire 6 rockets, which are effective at 9,000 meters range. They do 23 damage. They have 227 millimeters of heat penetration. Definitely gonna damage things if they get hit in the top armor, that's for sure. It can be upgraded with the B kit, so it does have better light arms fire protection, but if this is being shot at, you're playing it wrong. So it looks like the warheads can be changed. We got the M31 unitary warhead, which is like the classic HE. There's the M30 DP ICM. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is, but maybe they can be guided. And then we have the ATACMS, which is the ballistic missile. Interesting. These have 60 damage, can be fired 60,000 meters. That's pretty impressive. Cool. Alright, moving on. We have the M6 linebacker. We're back to AA. This thing has the Bushmaster, but it can fire very effectively against aircraft, I believe. Yeah, it has the HEIT shells that it can fire against helicopters at 1,500 meter range, as well as the APDS. Then it also has the Stinger. I mean, normal Bradleys I think can also fire, like the Bushmaster on any of the Bradleys can also fire at helicopters, I think, but this does come with Stingers mounted on the side. So it does have that 1,500 meter range Stinger. It is radar though, which does make it vulnerable to seed attacks as well as smoke. Let's move on to the MADIS. So this is another anti-air platform. It comes with the M230 LF chain gun, the 30mm, with a machine gun, and then the Stingers mounted on it as well. So this gets 2 Stingers mounted on the side. It gets 8 ammo for those Stingers, and it does come with that nice armor. Well, against light arms fire armor. Then we have the MTVR, another transport vehicle. This has 18 seats and 7,000 supply capability. It can be increased in armor. I like how that changes the back. It actually completely armors the back of the truck. Look at that. Damn. And its weapon, it can be given a weapon. It can be unarmed. It can have a MT40, 50 cal, and the grenade launcher on top. Alright, next up we have the Patriot. PAC 2x2. Okay. So this weapon system on the back, right at the back there, is a 1,500 meter range anti-air missile, I believe. The MIM-104E GEM. It can fire 2 of those. I do find the ranges of the AA a bit weird at the moment. They'll probably be changed in future, because this should be able to fire a very long way. But this is radar, of course. 410 millimeters of heat penetration. I don't think an aircraft wants to bump into that. Armor package. It can be upgraded with the B kit. Weapon package. You can add more missiles. That looks cool. You can just put the extra missiles on top. And it can have its own machine gun mounted on it, or grenade launcher. Then there's the PAC-3, which can fire the MIM-104F, which ignores armor completely by the looks of things. Its weapon package can be 8 missiles, 12 missiles, or 16 missiles. So you can see they're smaller, because that whole chunk there would be 1 missile in the previous one. So that's interesting. And again, radar does make it vulnerable to seed. It does have the self-defense package of machine gun or grenade launcher, and it can be upgraded with the B kit. Then we have the Striker mortar carrier to finish us off with the Sultan. So it does have a 120mm mortar in it. I like how the inside here is actually modelled with the screens and stuff there. That's actually really cool. But yeah, 120mm mortar with 3,600 meter range. Cool. That's it. Let's move on to the logistics tab, which of course there is none, like there is in the Russians. Let's move on to the helicopter tab. First off, we have the AH-1F Super Cobra. There it is. What a beauty. I really like the Cobra. It's another vehicle that reminds me of Battlefield 2. And just like that Recon vehicle that I was talking about at the start of the video. But yeah, this is the AH-1F Super Cobra. You can see the forward speed and agility here. 275 forward speed. It comes by default with just the 20mm rotary cannon. Interesting. Let's have a look at what we can put on. We can put on some Hydra rockets. These are 70mm rockets, so you can get 19 per pod. And there's 2 pods. And they have an effective range of 1,500 meters with a penetration of 70mm heat. The outer pylons, they can also have more Hydras, so you can get 4 rocket pods. You can get APKWS guided rockets. So laser guided rockets, which I guess it can guide itself. It probably has a laser guidance system on it. And then it can have Hellfire missiles. Hellfire missiles also laser guided. 900mm of heat penetration. What's the penetration on these? Are these any better than normal? Those guided rockets do actually do more damage. And then we have the AIM-9 AA missiles. One on each side. Which have the range versus aircraft. Which we can't see yet. And yeah. Just an air-to-air version of the Super Cobra if needs be. It does have ECM, which means it can drop its flares. Cool, let's move on to the AH-1Z Viper. Again, just comes with the 20mm chain gun by default. Bit faster than the AH-1W Super Cobra. Let's have a look at these armaments. So it can have on its inner pylons Hydra rockets, the APKWS guided rockets or Hellfires. That's on its inner pylons. On its outer pylons, it can have Hydra rockets or more APKWS guided rockets. And on its wingtips, it can have AIM-9 AA. So you can have all of them. That's nice. Look at that. That is a nice payload for sure. Very expensive though. 340 points for that. Then we have the good old Apache. There you go. Gotta love an Apache. These have a 30mm cannon underneath. And they've got default 2 Hydra rocket pods. So those 2 times 19 rockets. With a range of 1,500 meters. Obviously a bit slower. Definitely have more armor than the Viper and the Super Cobra. Both of the Viper and the Super Cobra are on 9 armor and 12 health, whilst the Apache is on 18 armor and 15 health. So much tankier helicopter Let's have a look at the inner pylons. We can put Hydra rockets on, the APKWS guided rockets, or the Hellfires. On the outer pylons, we can put APKWS and Hellfires as well. Very nice. Then we have the longbow. So this has 950 optics. This one has 1,200 optics, the longbow. The Apache, the Viper and the Super Cobra. The Viper has better optics as well, 950. The Super Cobra is only 750. But the longbow, yeah, 1,200 optics is actually massive because it can really utilize its full arsenal at longer ranges. But I don't know if this is just, I was going to say, like, surely I can give it better weapons than just rockets. So we can give it the APKWS guided rockets or Hellfire, Fire and Forget missiles. Oh, so these are the ones that aren't laser guided, they just fire and forget, which is really, really nice. At 3,600 meter range as well. And you can have a lot of those. That's like 16. 16 Hellfires that are fire and forget. That's going to be really scary. Alright, moving on, we have the CH-53E Super Stallion, which comes by default with an M240. A little underwhelming compared to the old ones, but yeah, this doesn't have as much armor, but it still has a lot of health. You can see, sorry, the statistics sometimes really mess up. You can see, if it will let me show you, that it has 18 health. 220 speed, obviously not too great, and its agility not great, but it can carry 30 people and 14,500 supply. It can be upgraded with a minigun, the GAU-17 minigun. It can also be upgraded with a 50 cal, the GAU-21 50 cal, if needs be. Then we have the Osprey. Osprey can carry 26 people, can carry 6,500 supply. Very fast, very, very fast. Quite tanky, decent amount of health, a little bit less armor than the Super Stallion. And it has a 50 cal on it. On the back there. Cool, let's have a look at other weapons. It can also arm itself with a minigun that is underneath by default. Yeah, very cool. Very cool indeed. Seeing that minigun fire underneath there as it's landing is really, really awesome. You can actually utilize that in the public demo mission. Right, next we have the MH6, the little bird. This has 500 optics by default with the 6 seats there for carrying some infantry into battle. And it can also upgrade its optics so it can see a little bit better, be a little bit of a scout chopper. Then there's the MH60M IDAP. This thing has 2 miniguns, one on either side. It also comes with 2 Hydra rocket pods, so 19 apiece in those, of course. 280 speed is actually not too bad. It's not as healthy as like the Osprey or Super Stallion, and its armor is a little bit worse than the Super Cobra and Viper, but it's got a decent armament. And if we go into the inner pylons, we can see that it can use M230 chain guns on the wings. It can use Hellfires. These are the laser guided ones. Or it can use the DAGR rocket pods, which are laser guided rockets. Then we have the Hydra rocket pods on the outer wings, of which you have 7 per pod. Or Stingers, so it can be used in an anti-air role as well. Since it has 950 optics, using like the guided munitions generally is probably pretty good with this thing. There is also the MH60S Nighthawk variant. So this thing has way less optics, way less... I was going to say it's less seats, but this thing actually has seats. The IDAP doesn't. So this can carry your weapon teams for you. Let's have a look at the door guns. So it can go from empty to 50 cals on the side. Nice. It can be on the pylons. You can get the M197 gun pods. Look at that thing. It's like a minigun. Or is it like the rotary cannon that's inside a sleeve? It looks like it. Yeah, that's still really cool. And then there's the Hydra rockets. So that's the port pylon, and then we got the starboard pylon. Oh, okay. So the starboard pylon has different setup. It can have more Hydra rockets, or we can have 4 Hellfire missiles. Cool. Alright, moving on. We have the MV-22B Osprey. So there's the CV-22B Osprey and the MV-22B. Trying to work out what the difference is here. Because I assume you can add the minigun to this one as well. You can. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is there. But I'm sure you guys in the comments will let me know if there is a significant difference. Now let's have a look at the UH-1Y Venom. This is actually faster than I thought it would be. Very lightly armoured though, and you know, a reasonable amount of health, but nothing crazy. It can carry 8 men, so it can carry decent squads into battle. Comes default with 2 M240s on the sides. Its door guns can be upgraded to miniguns, and the pylons can be given Hydra rockets, of which there is 7 on each side. And then there's also the APKWS rockets that can be put on these. Might want to close the door there though before you fire that rocket. That could end badly. Okay, and that's all your helicopters. Very nice indeed. Okay, let's move on to the aircraft. Starting off, well, of course, with the good old A-10C Thunderbolt 2. This thing is very well armoured. 30 armour, 20 health, 350 speed, very nice agility, plenty of ECM. It comes with the Avenger cannon, of course. Well, yeah, I don't know, rotary cannon, I suppose it is. Like minigun. It's not really a minigun. It's like big rotary gun. It's not the classification of it would be. I assume it's a rotary 30mm. Anyway, it does have 65 to 130 millimeters of heat penetration at 2,800 meter range. It comes default with Hydra rockets, 21 rockets here mounted either side, and it also has the AGM-65E air-to-ground missile with 3,600 meter range, 750 millimeters of heat penetration. Let's have a look at the other armaments this bad boy can have. So we can get some ECM pods, which I would assume are supposed to give us more ECM capability, or maybe make them harder to hit by radar or something. I'm not entirely sure how those are supposed to work in the game yet. They can be used for sidewinders, the AIM-9, so a little bit of air-to-air capability. There's the AIM-9 plus ECM, so ECM pod on one side, 2 AIM-9s on the other, or you can have 4 AIM-9s, which is actually quite a lot of air-to-air missiles for a A-10. The middle pylons, you can have 2 of the Maverick AGM missiles, or you can have 4, or you can have 6. You know, if you want to pay that little bit extra, you do pay 50 points extra per. Look at this. The wings on this thing are crazy. Okay, central pylons. There's going to be a lot of different stuff we can put here. So we've got the 42 Hydra rockets at the moment. We can put 13 500-pound bombs. the Mark 82s. There's the Mark 82 Snake Eyes. These guided bombs. Then there's the Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs. Okay, interesting. I'm just going to check the damage here. So the 500-pound bombs, 25 damage, and you get 4 times 3. The Snake Eye is 3 damage. Sorry, I'm not clicking on it. 25 damage. Not much changing there. I assume these are just guided. And then, yeah, you have the 2,000-pound bombs, which go up to 32 damage. And they have 910 millimeters of heat penetration. So if it hits something on the ground, it's going to go boom. We have the GBUs, the good old LJDAMs, with the 500-pound JDAMs. And there's a 2,000-pound JDAM as well. These are definitely guided bombs. Very, very nasty guided bombs, that's for sure. Okay, nice. Very nice indeed. That's all of the armaments for the A-10. What a beautiful plane this is. Okay, anyway, moving on. We have the AC-130. The AC-130U Spooky 2. So not the fastest aircraft, of course, because it doesn't need to be. The idea is that it hovers and circles its target and absolutely unleashes hell with its GAU-12 25mm. Yep, that's going to do a lot of damage. It also has its 40mm Bofors gun, which has 80 to 160 millimeters heat penetration at 3,000 meter range, and it also has a 105 millimeter gun, which has 3,000 meter range and 100 millimeters of heat penetration. I'm really excited to see how this works. I'm going to assume that there's going to be ability in the bottom right that like centers it on an area, and you can just like lay waste to everything in that area. Oh, this is actually going to be really fun to use in this game, I think. And then we have the AV-8B Harrier 2 Plus. This, by default, comes with 2 AMRAAMs, which are air-to-air radar missiles. And we've also got the AIM-9 Stingers, the infrareds. So that's just an air-to-air Harrier, which actually is not much faster than a Thunderbolt. But let's have a look at the different stuff that this can equip. So, outer pylons, we've got more AIM-9s, more AMRAAMs, or we could have the AGM-122. So the AGM-122 sidearm, does it say laser-guided missile, air-to-ground, I assume that is, 4,500 meters effective range. Because the missile itself doesn't look like an air-to-ground. It looks like an air-to-air, but it has 130 millimeters of heat penetration, so interesting. Right, middle pylons. You can use AIM-9s, which are there by default. You got the AMRAAMs, you got the AGM-122 sidearm. There's the AGM-65 Maverick, which is your classic air-to-ground laser guided with 3,600 meters effective range. You can put the JDAMs on there. So that's both the 500-pound and 1,000-pound JDAM guided bombs. Very nice. And then on the inner pylons, we can use AMRAAMs, Mavericks, so air-to-ground Mavericks. We've got the 4 500-pound air-to-ground guided bombs, more 1,000-pound bombs. It can have Zuni rockets, 12 on both sides. These are, I think, like 200mm rockets or something like that. I'm not entirely sure of their caliber. but 2,850 meter range, 127 millimeter heat penetration with 13 damage. Or it can have fuel tanks if you want to keep it in the mission for a little bit longer. Alright, center line. So underneath the middle here, it can have the GAU-12 equalizer. Is that like the gun? Like the rotary 25mm? Interesting. There's an ECM pod that it can put underneath. It has a designation pod that it can use for laser guidance for other aircraft. You can have the machine guns and the ECM pod, or the machine guns, not machine guns, like rotary cannons, and the designation pod. Okay, interesting. All right, moving on. We have the AV-8B Night Attack Harrier. This is the one that's in the public demo mission. By default, it comes with 2 of these AGM-65E air-to-ground laser-guided missiles, 3,600 meter range, 750 millimeters heat penetration. It does get 2 AIM-9s. Let's have a look at the different options for this one. So for the center line, underneath we can put those rotary cannons on it. It can have the 2 500 kilogram Mark 82 bombs, and it can also use snake eye bombs. In the middle pylons, I don't know the order's like so random sometimes, we can have sidewinders. We got Mavericks. There's more 500 kilogram bombs, snake eye bombs, 1000 kilogram bomb. You got the Mark 77 fire bombs, so napalm. There's the CBUs, which are cluster. These have an effective range of 10,500 meter range apparently. 225 millimeters of heat penetration into the top armor. It's pretty nice. These apparently do 240 damage. Those napalm bombs. Can use Hydra rockets or Xenu rockets in the middle pylons. Outer pylons, sidewinders, that's air-to-air AIM-9s. The 500-pound bombs, snake eyes, and more clusters potentially. And the inner pylons, we can get Mavericks, the air-to-ground Mavericks, 6 500-pound bombs, 3 on each wing, 6 snake eyes, 2 1,000 kilogram bombs, or sorry, 1,000-pound bombs, 2 fire bombs, Mark 77 fire bombs, more clusters, more Hydra rockets. You got the Zunis. You can have so many Zunis. Look at that, 24 Zunis plus the extra Zunis on the outside. That's like 32 Zunis. That's a lot. Or we can have fuel tanks. That's kind of boring. So you could set this up entirely for like crazy cluster bombs. So middle pylon, CBUs, and there you go. You have yourself, what is that? Is that 6, 10, 12. So you got 12 cluster bombs. Or you could even set it up, actually with the center line, can you also put one on there? You could also set it up to have like just fire bombs. So we'll just make that empty. With fire bombs, this would be empty, and then more fire bombs. So this would just be like a napalm run for the Harrier. Very cool. All right. Let's move on to the B-1B Lancer. Look at that big old bomber. So this thing, pretty fast, a lot of health, and decent amount of fuel, of course, lots of ECM. It does come by default with 84 500-pound bombs. That is a carpet bomb and a half, but check out this loadout. So there's the Snake Eyes, the CBU 87, so that's a huge cluster potential of 30 cluster bombs being dropped. There's the Mark 84s, so you can drop 24 2,000 pound bombs. You can drop 12 JSOW, I think these are pretty much like cruise missiles almost. Or like cruise, kind of tactical cruise missiles with 15,000 meter range. There's the JASSM, which again kind of cruise missile, with 24 of these loaded in this thing. So you could just sit miles away with this thing, drop them at 60,000 meter range on targets that you want to hit. That's huge. There's also the AGM-86C, which is another cruise missile that you can use. And better than all of that, we have the tactical nuke, everyone. I briefly mentioned this in the Russian video, but yeah, you can drop not just one nuke, but two B-62 12 nukes. These have 9,001 damage, and they ignore any armor whatsoever. Yeah, don't want to be near the target when one of those goes off. I'm excited to see what they look like in game. So here you have your tactical nuclear bomber. Right, next up we have the F-18E. F-A-18E. Your Hornet. This comes with a 20mm gun with its 4 AIM-9s by default and 2 AIM-7Ms, which are, I guess, like SEMACT radar. Not entirely sure, but decently quick. And a nice air-to-air fighter. So its outer pylons can be equipped with 2 more AIM-9s. It can use the AIM-7M Sparrows, and it can also use the AMRAAMs, which are like the super long range. I think they're 12,000 meters on some of the other aircraft that have long range missiles, and then the Sparrow would be like 6,000. Yeah, maybe this is like 9,000 then the AMRAAMs. But middle pylons, AIM-9s, you can get 4 AIM-9s, so you can put extras on the pylons. 2 Sparrows. You've also got AMRAAMs, or 4 AMRAAMs even. So that's actually quite a lot of AMRAAMs. On the inner pylons, you can do AIM-9s. Well, you've got fuel tanks by default, but you've got AIM-9s, 4 Sidewinder AIM-9s, 2 AIM-7s, 2 AMRAAMs, or 4 AMRAAMs. So that's a lot of, again, it's a lot of AMRAAMs. And then under the fuselage, we can have AIM-9s, or sorry, AIM-7M Sparrows or AMRAAMs. Okay, that's 10 AMRAAMs. Why not? If you look at it from above and you see all those missiles sticking out, it's crazy. 700 points that makes it cost. That's crazy. Alright, moving on. We have the FA-18F. Now this is the air-to-ground variant, right? So, again, same speed and all that good stuff. It comes by default with 2 air-to-ground missiles, the AGM-65K. It comes with AIM-9s and 1 AMRAAM. But let's have a look at the outer pylons. So we can put Sidewinders, put AMRAAMs on, we can put more Mavericks on, and we can put on the JDAMs, the 500-pound JDAMs. The middle pylons, you can put on Mavericks, 4 of the 500-pound JDAMs, or 2 of the 1,000-pound JDAMs. And on the inner, we can have fuel tanks, the Mavericks, 4 500-pound JDAMs, or 2 1,000-pound JDAMs. So you could set this up as like a complete 500-pound JDAM bomber and just go ham on whatever you wanted to. That'd be pretty crazy. Alright, moving on. We have the... Did I miss anything else? No, I didn't. We have the good old Super Tomcat, the F-14D. Give that a good look. Right, centerline. Actually, let's just check what's by default on this, because it didn't show up. So it has a 20mm gun. It gets 4 AIM-9s and 4 AIM-51 12,000 meter range air-to-air missiles. These big chunky boys underneath. Okay. So, with the centerline, it can use these 4 AIM-54 Phoenixes. You can swap them out for Sparrows. You can have 2 Sparrows and 2 Phoenixes. You could have 14 500-kilogram bombs, or 500-pound bombs, sorry. The Snake Eyes, 14 of those. 9 1,000-pound bombs. 4 2,000-pound bombs. 6 cluster bombs, 500 pounds. 4 500-pound JDAMs. 4 1,000-pound JDAMs. Or 4 2,000-pound JDAMs. You want to go maximum. There you go. On the wings, you have AIM-9s. You can put Sparrows on them. Put Phoenixes on them. So you can get even more Phoenixes potentially. So you could have 4 Phoenixes underneath, 2 Phoenixes on the wing if you wanted to just sit at maximum range. Or you can just have Zuni rockets, because why not? And then fuel. It can add fuel tanks if you want it to go further. And this does affect the fuel on the right hand side there. So if you're going to have this with like multiple Phoenixes like this, it's kind of risky, because if anything gets close, you are going to want a Sparrow or a AIM-9. But yeah, if you have like 6 of these AIM-54s, the Phoenixes, then having the extra fuel is definitely going to be necessary. That looks like a beast of a fighter at range. Right, next up we have the F-15C Eagle. Always remember stunting with this again in Battlefield 2. On the, is it Kubra Dam map? Anyway, super fast. This thing goes 700 on the speed there. Very nice. Comes with its 20mm. And only 4 AIM-9s by default. But we all know that the Eagle can carry quite a nice payload. This is the air-to-air variant though, I think. The F-15C. So we can have 4 AIM-9s, or we can have 2 AIM-9s and 2 AIM-120s, which are the AMRAAMs. Or 4 AMRAAMs. That's on the wings. On the fuselage, we can have an AIM-9, or sorry, an AIM-7, 2 AIM-7s. We can have, well, that actually gives us more than that. It gives us 2 AIM-7s, and that gives us technically 4 AIM-7s. Or we can have more AMRAAMs, or even more AMRAAMs. So loads and loads of missiles here. Cool, and then we can also put fuel tanks on this. So we can have 1 underneath. We can have 2 which get attached to the wings, or we can have all 3 if we want this to hang about for a long amount of time. Cool. Okay, then we have the ground attack variant, the Strike Eagle. This thing is the one that can have a ton of payload. So got a 20mm, got the AIM-9, it's got an AMRAAM on it, and then we got 12 500-pound bombs by default. So on the wings we can have 1 AIM-9 and 1 AIM-20, so an AMRAAM or the AIM-9. We can have 2 AIM-9s and 2 AMRAAMs. We can have 4 AIM-9s or 4 AMRAAMs. On the second slot on the wings, we can have fuel tanks, or we can have more bombs. So 8 of these 500-pound bombs. You can have 2 2,000-pound bombs. You can have 8 CBU 1,000-pound cluster bombs. You can have 2 JDAM 500-pound bombs, or 2 JDAM 2,000-pound bombs. Okay. On the fuselage pylons, we can have the Mark 82 500-pound bombs. We can have 2 Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs, 4 Mark 84 2,000 bombs. You can have 4 CBU 87 cluster bombs, which are 1,000 pound. And then we have the GBU 54 500 pound bomb, or the GBU 56 2,000 pound bombs. And you can actually have, well, you get 4 on the bottom there. Okay, so quite the armament. And then the center line can also have bombs. So you can put even more Mark 82 500 pound bombs, 200 pound bomb. But C3, is that 3 or 6? 6 CBU 87 bombs. Oh, that was actually 6 Mark 82 500 pound bombs. So yeah. And then we can have, is that just 1 500 pound JDAM or 1 2,000 pound JDAM? That's a lot of JDAMs. Look at that, 7 JDAMs. Oh, 2,000 pound JDAMs as well. Crikey, that thing's going to be dragging through the air. Alright, moving on. We have the F-22 Raptor. God, these aircraft just get better and better. Looking very cool, that's for sure. This has a pretty simple armament though, I believe. It does have this 20mm gun, which has very limited shots from, I guess, like 1 burst, I think, in real life or something, if it wants to hit other aircraft. Very, very fast boy with decent agility. Gets 4 AMRAAMs and an AIM-9 by default, and these are all like ejected underneath the aircraft, I believe. The port bay can carry those 2 AIM-9s. We can put JDAMs in there. So that is the 500 pound JDAM or the 2,000. Is that the 2,000 pound JDAM? How does that fit in there? Oh, okay. It's two 1,000 pound JDAMs. We can put the JSOW in there, which has that 15,000 meter range. Or we can put the GBU 53 Stormbreaker in there. Just basically they're like winged bombs, I think, basically. Rather than like cruise missiles, I think they're just like guided bombs. But that GBU Stormbreaker has 10,500 meter range. That's pretty cool. And then the starboard bay, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, all of it is exactly the same. Awesome. Well, there you go. The F-22 Raptor. Then we have the F-35. The F-35A. By default comes with a 25mm GAU-22. With a bit more ammo than the F-22, that's for sure. It gets the AMRAAM. 4 of those. Then we have the JDAM available. So the 500 pound JDAM, the 1,000 pound JDAM, the 2,000 pound JDAM even. Interesting. Where even are these stored? Then we have the JSOW guided bomb and the Stormbreaker guided bomb. Cool. I don't think it changes maybe in the ports yet. But then the starboard bay is pretty much the same options there. You can have like 2 Stormbreakers with a couple of AMRAAMs. Maybe they're tucked up where you can't see them. I think they're right in there. Yeah, they are. You can kind of see if you zoom right in. I don't think I can get underneath. Anyway, very cool F-35. Then we have the F-35B. So, again, nice and quick. Not as fast as the F-35A. Coming with those AMRAAM missiles. It can have the 500 pound, 1000 pound JDAMs. It can have the guided bombs. I can actually have 3 of those guided bombs there. Okay, and that's the same for the other bay as well. So port bay, starboard bay on all of these. It's exactly the same. And then the F-35C, which, let's have a look, is again pretty much the same. So AMRAAMs, JDAM 500 pound, JDAM 1000 pound, JDAM 2000 pound bomb, the JSOW and the GBUs. This one getting 4 GBUs. So could you do like 2 times 4 GBUs and have loads of guided bombs? Seems pretty nuts if you can do that. It will be probably very expensive though. Maybe not as expensive as I thought, but there we go. That is all of the American units in the game. So some very exciting toys that I'm kind of looking forward to being able to play with in this game. I would like to see what the nuke does. I'd love to do like a big napalm strike or just a huge carpet bomb or something like that. You know, these kinds of cool things that you kind of want to see happen in the game. But yeah, nice decals on this. Looks nice. But yeah, anyway, that is it for now. It's been a very long video once again, showing off all of these different units. If you have any thoughts or corrections, feel free to leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think is your favorite unit. But that's it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.